The mirror in your bathroom was once one of the most dangerous secrets in Europe. For over a century, a republic was willing to confine, threaten, and allegedly kill to keep its making a mystery. Venice treated its glassmakers as state assets, wealthy, watched by the Council of Ten, and forbidden to leave on pain of death. What made a mere reflection worth that kind of protection begins in a world where seeing yourself clearly was nearly impossible. 8,000 years ago, in the Neolithic settlement of Catalhoyuk in what is now Turkey, someone ground a piece of black volcanic obsidian flat and polished it with clay and water. This dark, glassy disk is the oldest confidently identified mirror in human history. For thousands of years, this was the standard. If you wanted to see your face, you stared into polished obsidian, or later, discs of copper, bronze, and silver. These metal surfaces oxidized quickly and offered only a dim, distorted, warm-toned reflection. To the ancient world, your own face was a murky, golden shadow. When a clear likeness of oneself was almost impossible to find in the physical world, capturing a reflection felt less like physics and more like sorcery. Ancient cultures viewed these rare, shimmering illusions not as mere play of light, but as direct windows to the soul. In Greece and Rome, priests practiced cataptromancy, lowering polished surfaces into sacred wells to summon prophetic visions of life and death. The reflection was not considered empty air. It was a vulnerable fragment of the self, exposed to the elements. To glimpse your image was to stand at a threshold, staring directly into another world. In the early 16th century, on a small island in the Venetian lagoon, the dim shadow of human reflection vanished. Glassmakers on Murano, led by the Del Gallo family, perfected a method that would change how humanity saw itself. They took a sheet of near-flawless, transparent cristallo glass, made with soda ash from the Levant and mainland silica, and applied a thin tin foil, merging it with liquid mercury. The mercury dissolved the tin, forming a highly reflective amalgam. A 1540 patent by Vincenzo Rader further refined the polishing process, ensuring the surface was completely flat. For the first time in history, a mirror produced a bright, sharp, and undistorted reflection. It was a technological leap so profound that a single Venetian mirror could cost more than an oil painting by a Renaissance master. This clarity made the mirror a highly coveted luxury across Europe, and Venice intended to keep it that way. The state's strategy had begun centuries earlier, in 1291, when the Senate ordered all glass furnaces to relocate to Murano. Officially, it was to protect Venice from fire. In reality, it isolated the masters and kept the recipes under close surveillance. Under the supervision of the Arte dei Vitrai, the Glassmakers Guild, and the watchful eyes of the Council of Ten, Murano became a gilded prison. The Republic rewarded its master glassmakers with unprecedented privileges. They were granted nobility, tax exemptions, and the right to marry patrician daughters. But this wealth came with a dark condition. They were state assets. The Senate passed strict decrees forbidding glassmakers from carrying their knowledge outside the lagoon. To leave Venice was treason, punishable by the seizure of assets, the imprisonment of family members, and eventually, a death sentence. The men who held the secret of the mirror were treated like kings, but they were never allowed to leave alive. In 1665, the French crown decided to break this monopoly. King Louis XIV and his finance minister, Jean-Baptiste Colbert, realized that as long as Venice controlled the mirror trade, French gold would continue to pour into the lagoon. Colbert, alongside the war minister Louvois, dispatched agents to Venice with a covert mission: smuggle the masters out of Murano. The French ambassador coordinated the talent raid, offering large sums of gold and royal protection. On July 12, 1665, Colbert's efforts culminated in a contract signed in Paris. 5 Murano artisans, including members of the Barovier and Tosso families, agreed to defect. They were settled in the royal manufacture of St. Cloud, tasked with establishing a rival French mirror works. Venice reacted with swift, quiet fury. The Council of Ten activated its network of state inquisitors and spies. The defectors were formally declared capiti di Stato, enemies of the state. Venetian records show the immediate confiscation of their properties and the imprisonment of their families to force their return. But the retaliation allegedly went far beyond legal sanctions. Popular accounts and 19th century histories claim Venice sent assassins across the Alps. Rumors spread that the defectors began dying under suspicious circumstances, with whispers of sudden, violent illnesses, hunting accidents, and poisoned meals. While modern historians find no official death warrants in the Venetian archives to prove these executions, French diplomatic dispatches reveal a climate of genuine terror. The artisans themselves wrote frantic letters to Colbert, begging for protection and claiming they were being hunted. Ambassadorial reports from Paris to Versailles in the 1670s repeatedly complained that Venetian officials guarded the secret with lethal seriousness. Whether the poisonings were historical facts or the product of intense psychological paranoia, the lesson was clear. The glass mirror was no longer a simple luxury. It was an object of active state espionage, guarded by a republic that would go to any length to protect its secrets. In 1678, the stolen secrets of Murano materialized inside the Palace of Versailles. King Louis XIV and architect Jules Hardouin Mansart began constructing the Galerie des Glaces, the Hall of Mirrors. Completed in 1684, the 73-meter gallery was lined with 357 massive mirror plates, produced by the newly established French Royal Glassworks. Under the sun's rays, the corridor became a monument of light, designed to overwhelm foreign ambassadors with pure reflection. More than an architectural marvel, the room was a silent, geopolitical declaration. Every reflecting panel announced that Venice's absolute control over the craft was dead. France had not only acquired the forbidden technology, they had scaled it to a colossal royal theater. To walk through the gallery was to be surrounded by a luxury purchased through state espionage. But as the French court basked in this stolen light, a quiet horror began to unfold behind the scenes. The process of turning glass into silvered glass carried a hidden, toxic price, one that would soon devastate the very craftsmen who built the King's Mirror. The flat, glittering surfaces of the Hall of Mirrors began in toxic, unventilated workshops. To create the reflective backing, craftsmen poured liquid mercury directly onto sheets of tinfoil by hand. In these cramped spaces, workers flattened the metal using chamois leather, pressing the mixture directly onto the glass. The chemical reaction created a reflective amalgam, but the physical price was devastating. When workshops heated the mixture to speed up bonding, the process released dense, invisible mercury vapor. Inhaling this vapor at concentrations as low as 0.025 milligrams per cubic meter systematically destroyed the human nervous system. Within weeks, the anonymous artisans who built these luxury items developed mercury erethism. First came subtle changes: irritability, chronic fatigue, and memory loss. Then came physical disintegration, uncontrollable tremors, muscle spasms, and progressive cognitive decline. Long before a mirror ever reached a noble palace, the men who made it were often lost to madness, organ failure, and early death. The industrial production of mirrors eventually stripped them of their elite status, bringing them into every ordinary home. Yet the ancient dread never truly vanished. It simply quieted into superstition. Today, breaking a mirror still carries the threat of 7 years of bad luck, a lingering remnant of the Roman belief that the physical reflection holds a piece of the human soul. In many traditions, families still drape dark cloth over every mirror after a death, preventing the departing spirit from being trapped inside the glass. Folklore still warns of soulless beings that cast no reflection at all. An ordinary mirror, hanging on a bedroom wall, remains a quiet threshold where physical science and old fears meet. Today, we look into the glass without a second thought. Yet every clear reflection carries the quiet, toxic legacy of those who died to perfect it. Perhaps the mirror's deepest deception is convincing us we are only looking at ourselves. If this story lingered with you, consider subscribing.